How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
I sat down over there and I saw his face pop. Oh, that's all we need. Yeah, Yolanda, I talked to her, she's on. Good. What's on now? John, did you, contact the sheriff?
Yeah.
For some backup?
Yeah, so he did. My daughter, he told me all the analysis figures. So he wanted Craig to give the Goldman to see if they could give it, I don't know if you have to get overtime approved or what.
They're pretty booked as well?
Well, he's thinking like he could help Thursday.
We'll take whatever we can get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beggars can't be choosers.
We're live right now.
So that's good.
I hope you said everything on
Craig just got to November
Yeah,
24th.
I understand.
At this point,
You know, Craig called last week. Well, here's my deal. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. And people are,
I'm gonna record a piece of paper with
You guys are on live mic,
oh, that's fine.
so you know.
So, we can only do what we can do, and just because.
I can bring in,
In one day,
bring in
just make whatever scenario you want, we can do what we can do.
I'll have it.
It is what it is.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order today's Plan Commission special meeting for November 9th. If we can all rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greg, will you be doing roll call today?
Yes. All right. Mr. Burleson? Here. Ms. Cardona?
I heard.
Was on there.
I wonder if we just can't hear her. She was there.
Yeah, I saw it.
Someone's trying to, it's almost like someone's trying to speak. Jason, do we have Yolanda Cardona on? Ms. Woland?
I'm here.
Mr. Gill? Here. Mr. Gillette?
Present.
Ms. Little is absent. Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
So the only question is whether we have Yolanda Cardona on.
Tracking her right now, so.
Well, why don't we,
We can proceed, I guess.
just want to make sure if she has any questions.
I'll mark,
Bad connection, she said.
okay, I'll mark her as present if she comes back in, but we have enough for a quorum,
We have
so.
enough for a quorum, that is correct. All right, on today's agenda, we have no minutes, so number 4 passed. Next, we have a public hearing to amend the comprehensive plan to include the zone improvement plan. This would be a recommendation to the town council from the plan commission for favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation at this time. I will turn it over to Tagi if you want to give us a presentation.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tagi Arshami. I'm a principal planner with the firm of the Arsh Group, and tonight in this room also our team member, Danny Cobb, is here from First Group Engineering. Mr. President, this is a sort of follow-up to a presentation, a briefing that I made about 4 weeks ago, and giving you the process that we have gone through, or at the time we were going through, for establishment of potentially a road impact fee for the town of St. John. The road impact fee consists of two separate items, and I am here only for the first item today, an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Road impact fee has what is called the study, what is officially called a zone improvement plan. I understand everybody has received a copy of it, and that is a draft version of it. And we are asking the commission to approve this and forward it to the town council for their consideration. Our second episode that we will be coming here, that is actually to adopt and approve a zoning, or not a zoning, an ordinance, a fee ordinance that would actually establishes the fee. So at this point, we are only here for the adoption of this amendment to the comprehensive plan. In our last presentation here, I did provide you with a briefing about what that process has been, what we have gone through, and we do have one of our very good members of the advisory committee here, Joan, and I do want to recognize her, and I do want to also congratulate the council by appointing the advisory committee. As you know, and some of the other members, we probably have done about 10, 15 of these studies, and I don't think we have ever worked with a advisory group as smart as this group and as interested as this group. So I think I mentioned last time, one of our meetings lasted 4 hours, and we had a total of 9 meetings, and in the last 2 meetings, they primarily talked about the fee itself. You have heard me, I'm on page 2 of this handout. That's what I'm going by, and basically that shows the process for the impact fee, and that starts from and sort of 2 different sides of urban consideration. One is on the traffic side, one is on the land use side, and at some point at the end of this process, those 2 merge to generate or to provide a cost per trip. And it's a lengthy process, collection of variety of types of land use information, traffic information, which we started sometimes in February. And as a result of those efforts, we came up with several information data to calculate a fee. And the growth potentials was a major item of this calculation. And we looked at developable lands, we looked at existing subdivision, as well as existing lots that were vacant at the time. And we also considered, an advisory committee was very helpful in talking to us about the market condition. What should we expect for the next 10 years in terms of development picture? So what you see under the bullet number 3 is a projected number of development units or service unit that they're called, that we came up, and that consists of residential, commercial, as well as industrial. So 3948 is the total service unit that is anticipated to be generated for the next 10 years. This service unit in this context represents either one single-family home. It's also called EDU, equivalent dwelling units, or 1,000 square feet of commercial space. And yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Do you mind if unfortunately, I couldn't make the joint session 2 weeks ago because of work commitment. Do you mind, as you're presenting, if I jump in and ask a question here or there?
Absolutely.
Because I think, Bob, you brought this up, because I was able to watch the YouTube video. In 18, when you presented to the Plan Commission, the EDUs were 9,100. From the 2018
EDU,
From the 2018 road impacts fee study.
oh,
Was
you're talking about the total EDU, yes, yes, yes,
We're at a little bit less than 4,000, almost.
right.
It was a reduction. I think Bobby brought this up a little bit because we were like, can you explain the
Yeah.
potential discrepancies between 18, when we got this in 2017, 2018 to now?
Several factors have played. That number, what we call the development capacity for the town, that's what we discussed last time, and the 9,000 number comes from that time. That was the total development capacity. The total development capacity of the town today, and it is in your bigger report, it is in there, it shows somewhere around 8,000. And that 8,000 roughly is, when we look at what was there 5, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, and what is today, that is natural because you have built over 1,000 housing units since we last talked. And so it is today that capacity has almost stayed the same, minus what has been built. You have also annexed a few acres over the last 5 years, so those have added numbers. That's a capacity. And what happened was several factors that came into consideration this round. And number one was, we have now 10 years of history of development in the town. We have 10 years of housing building, we have 10 years of history, what that market is for town of St. John. So those played a significant role in determining what the future will look like or should look like. So what you see in this table is more realistic representation of what the 10-year development in the town will look like. One of the other major factor, particularly in the commercial side, is Shop 96. On that time, we assumed that was supposed to be about 250,000 square feet. It is now 100,000. So by definition, that reduced significant amount of traffic or impact on those. There were several other similar type of developments that on that time we assumed were a factor. So that has those either not any longer true or active, and some of them have already been built. So those that have been built, Bank is a good example. Now they're part of the existing traffic. So that's the difference between the two tables. To make it short, we've become wiser. We have a 10-year history, and we are not overestimating what the traffic should look like.
Thank you. I apologize for having you to repeat some of this
No
stuff.
apology. I'm glad you stopped me in.
We'll make this
Everybody
more,
feel
hopefully
free.
have a conversation, so you're not speaking the whole time, so.
That's correct. So that is on the land use side. Then on the traffic side,
I'm sorry, Ty, I'm just going, so are these numbers too conservative since we are built, I mean, our development is substantial.
right.
I mean, I think in the last meeting I heard, we're permits of 350. Are these numbers too conservative then? You
The-
might, on the opposite side, you know, they were unrealistic 2
Right.
years ago, too conservative now?
Uh,
Which would be
The
a good thing
advisory
because-
committee, yes, the advisory committee, really one meeting, they discussed this, and we had to go back, and in the second meeting, they sort of half discussed what that market is. And this was the number that they felt comfortable. And that is acceptable to them, reasonable to assume for next 10 years. It is good to be conservative, and I'll get to it later on, rather than being too optimistic, and then you find out that that wasn't, that was too much. And
Okay. Yeah, because you would have a bigger impact if this is conservative, you'd have more revenue coming in.
that's
What's
correct.
expected.
That's correct.
Okay,
That
thank
is
you.
correct. And so that's on the land use side. On the traffic side, Danny did tremendous amount of work. And I'm going to bring him up just to talk about level of service, what it is, what was our assumption, and then we're going to move on.
Part of the process is to look at what are your existing conditions, your existing operational characteristics of your roadway network today. And essentially, in this process, we set thresholds for characteristics beyond which we would need to put in improvements. For intersections, this is defined as the level of service. Now, that's it's based on how much delay happens at the intersection, and it is figured on by the intersection and by the approach and even down to by the movement. And these are given letter grades, A through F. And just like in school, A is really good, not everybody gets that, and F is really bad, and you need to improve it. And so traditionally, and the committee also adopted this, at level of service F, we start looking to improve things, and we want to get to at least a level of service D. And so we looked at the existing system, and we looked at it today in 2020, and we looked at it 5 years from now, and we looked at it 10 years from now. And the difference in that is with just setting aside development, that you have a natural growth in traffic. And for a vibrant community like St. John, statewide that averages about 2% a year. So we added that traffic onto the existing and then did the same analysis. And we found out what your deficiencies would be in 2025 and in 2030. Then we added the development that Taki's talking about onto that. And we come up with the deficiencies in 2025 with growth and the deficiencies in 2030 with growth. Now for the roadway segments, what we did last time and what traditionally has been done is looking at traffic volumes on the planning level to determine when to go from 2 lanes to 3 or from 2 lanes to 4. And we in the industry have been, I believe, a little conservative on that front. And in recent years, there's been some different pushback on that. Urban redevelopment people such as Jeff Speck, who is working on a project in downtown Hammond, as well as Elkhart and I think a couple other communities in the state, have pushed a different concept, and that is for your community to be vibrant, you need to not push traffic through it. You need to have traffic come through with some delay and slow the speeds a little bit through the area. They found that if you hit a pedestrian at 25 or 30 mile an hour versus if you hit him at 35 or 40, the chances of survival are greatly improved. And just having the pedestrian be more invited into the environment is really a crucial part in the vitality of your community. So there's been a number of studies done where we've taken the old thresholds for traffic volumes and improving lanes and have pushed those. What was once at 12,000, we would consider going to a 3-lane section. That number is now 15, and it can go as high as 22. And there's been agencies and cities that have done this and have actually converted 4-lane roads back to 3-lane roads with these kind of traffic volumes and have done so successfully. And so for this analysis, we took the approach that we're going to use those lower thresholds for determining when we need to widen roadways. And then also additionally, if you have a signalized intersection on each side of a segment, and if that signal can work fine with one through lane, but yet the old value said you needed 4 lanes in between, that's ridiculous. So we said, if you need 2 lanes at both signalized intersections, 2 through lanes, then we'll widen to 4 lanes. But if you can get by with 1 lane, we'll go with 2 or with 3 lanes in between. And I think this is probably a more realistic standpoint. It leads to a certainly more conservative number in the way of improvement cost goes.
So same question, very similar to what I asked Taggy. So 2 years ago, and I think this was brought up in the meeting, the growth, the deficiencies cost was about 11 million,
88?
and the impact was 81.
Yeah.
So now so you're saying because it's a more conservative approach on how we're looking at the road improvements, that our number dropped from 81 to 20 million?
Twofold. One is that we did every single square foot of commercial property on the first go-around, and this time we reduced that to what the committee felt was a proper absorption rate for the community. That greatly reduced those trips, okay, greatly. So number one, you take the trips down. Number two, you bring the threshold down for when you widen to 4 lanes. We had roadways that we widened to 4 lanes under that first study. We have no 4-lane roads in this one. And it's a combination of the 2 factors, but by far, the number of trips being reduced was the most significant contributor to that.
And one other question, I looked at some of the improvements that you're looking to do at the intersection. Is 20 a conservative number, or does that seem like a lot of improvements for $20 million? Some of the PowerPoint presentations that were given to the impact committee showed a list of improvements or deficiencies. Is 20 a good number, or is
No, I think 20 is a good number. We may purposely gone a little heavy on land acquisition cost because I've found in this business it's hard to put an accurate number on that. So we went conservative on that. But the engineering, the construction observation, and we actually we pulled quantities on these roads. And so I think that number is a good number.
Thank you.
How many intersections were you looking that were deficient, that needed improvements?
In existing conditions, we have 3. 41 and 93rd, Joliet and 93rd, Joliet and 41, Klein and 93rd. Joliet, we're taken care of with the project that we got ongoing. And then that leaves 2 intersections for the conditions today in 2020. When you move out to 2030, that number greatly increased. And in your handout, I believe that's figure 12.
What page?
So we've identified them in the larger volume of which intersections, and now none of the segments for the existing traffic
Did you guys
were.
receive, I think you guys got a second separate, did you hand that to guys?
It's also in the smaller package, and these, on pages 6 and 7. Page 6 and 7 list intersections.
Okay.
The writing's kind of small.
Yeah, on the big handout, it's on page 50. And the intersections that were found deficient in 2030 was White Oak and 93rd, again 41 and 93rd, again Klein and 93rd, Blaine and 93rd, Blaine and 101st, 109th and White Oak, 109th and 41, 109th and Parish, as measured against the existing conditions. The other thing is that how did we arrive at the trips? So that, which is the basis of the analysis. And for that, there is a resource document put out by the Institution of Transportation Engineers. They're in their 10th edition, and it is a document that has been developed, oh Lord, over maybe 30 years, that they've taken transportation studies that people have done for developments after they're built, where they go out and actually count the cars and then balance the car count against the square footage of the property. And then there's some other terms. They sometimes do it by number of employees. They sometimes do it by number of gas pumps. There's a couple different variables. But we use that data that's on a nationwide basis to come up with the trips for each of the uses that TAGI identified and that the committee identified as far as what we're going to consider to be our capacity to develop in the next 5 and 10 years. And so that's how we come up with these magic numbers of, well, you're going to have a level of service F at 93rd and Klein. Oh, okay. So that's how we did that. Are there any questions on any of that? It's really dry stuff, but, you know, it's the bulk of what we had to do.
Thank you, then. So we have on one side the land use, we have on the other side, from that projected land use, what is the number of trips that would create, which based on the number 5, that you have bullet number 5, then he estimated it was 55,669 different trips and for different uses. And we had identified all of those uses based on the comprehensive plan and the zoning. So it relates, all of this information relates to the land use. Then he at the same time assign these extra trips to these different roads, and then the deficiencies that he has identified, and it is in the bigger report, and then cost those out. And as he mentioned, there are some deficiencies that are existing, what's called existing deficiencies, and there are many that is growth-related deficiencies, and those are future deficiencies. So the total needs for all of these deficiencies were estimated about $27 million. About 6.7 million of it is estimated to be existing deficiencies, and with 20 million of it being a growth-related deficiencies. And when you have the total cost of these deficiencies, you have the total number of future trips that are generated, you divide the two together, and you get a cost per trip. And it is important as planners for you to understand, and this sort of something that brings out another factor in as you go through these developments, that for you to look at this for each trip that a business or a use will add here, it is costing at the present time, it is costing the town $8.09 based on this calculation. And yes,
The grant funding credit,
Yeah, there is,
What is a grant funding?
yeah, there is there are several different types of funds if they are taxpayer-based funds, the state requires that a credit be given for those funds against the impact fee. And grants is one of those. These grants are state-funded grants, and both of them were community crossing grants that you had received, and therefore that much is credited back. It is assumed that these are, again, taxpayers' funds, and therefore taxpayers have already paid for it. So that is, we have adjusted this. This number is a little bit different than what we submitted last time. That was preliminary. It did not have an adjustment. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that change. So if we go, this trip cost is basically the basis for the impact fee. And what type of use it is, how many trips does it create on a daily basis or on average daily basis? You multiply the two and you get what that trip cost is. And I mentioned about the different types of uses. A land use such as single-family home, based on what Denny has done in his modeling in the town, indicates that there are 10.41 trips per single-family home. So if you multiply that number by 339 and by 338, you get a number of 3519. That is also called one unit or one EDU, one service unit. So everything is measured on that basis. And we have a list of potential fees at the 100% level, and that you see on this table. So it ranges from single-family home to multi-family home. You'll see that the ITE table that Danny referred to, that is a factor that is being used and for that determination, and you see that the multifamily generates less trips, and therefore it is charged less. And the same sort of assumptions, industrial uses typically use or generate less of a traffic than a commercial regular retail shop. I want to also stress that on these things, these are all done sort of pre-COVID. The impact of the COVID has not been applied. We don't even know what it is, and but that is pre-COVID impact. The committee worked really hard and discussed a variety of options for what they should be the recommended fee. Basically, there are two types of fee that is used. One is what's called a flat rate. You can go on a 100% or a percentage of the total base rate, or you can go on a graduated basis. Graduated basis is a lot of communities use it, and that is you start at a lower rate and then gradually go to the 100%. And the committee had two of their last meetings discussing this, and they unanimously approved a schedule that starts from 70% on the first year and all the way to the fourth year, becoming 100% of the rate, and fifth year also being 100%. And if that is the case for a single-family home, in 2021, which will be, if it is approved and if it is implemented, it'll start at $2,463, and it will eventually goes up to $3,519. And that is for a 70% rate. The next table shows at a 70% rate, which is the first year. What you are seeing is somewhere around, again, $2,463 for a single-family home, and a variety of types of rates for different types of uses. And that was the basis of this establishment of this fee. Now, if we take this fee based on what you saw earlier, project that, I want to direct your attention to the table that you see under number 3 or bullet 4 fee calculations. You see that we have over the 10 years, the committee's estimate was 2,993 single-family homes built. And so once we plug in those numbers into projection of revenues, this is what we get, somewhere around $6 million projected revenues, which is majority of it is for single-family homes. You can see 4.5 million versus 1.5 for commercials. And commercials naturally pay higher rate, and because they generate more traffic, but we think the majority of the funds or revenues could come from residential uses. If there are any questions, that I know it is important for this particular item, I want to make sure that everybody understands. And,
Tiggy, is there anyone in Lake County that has this?
no. Road impact fee, no.
Are they all in central Indiana?
Yes.
Okay.
Westville, Noblesville, Fishers, and Carmel are the 4 municipalities.
Okay. 2018, when we had this come before us, we didn't have to make were we supposed to make a adoption to our comp plan?
Yes, it's the same process. This is the first time
Okay.
yes.
It didn't happen last time.
I was about to,
I don't
maybe it
know.
happened
I'm not
before
sure
my
if they,
time, Paul, but I don't.
I'm not sure if they missed a step or just never got
I'm
that.
just-
It never came to even be offered to this stage.
Well, it did,
did.
because a fee was considered.
Yeah.
So all I could say is Adam is extremely detail-oriented, and he is making sure that we're rock solid.
Either I was like, God, I can't remember if we did
No,
this.
this step never took
Okay,
place.
thank
Yeah.
you. I thought I was just, and then, Tiggy, and maybe hopefully one of the committee members will ask, can I ask your opinion? What was one of their major concerns with, did they have what was your impression of the committee, Impact Advisory Committee? What was one of their biggest concerns with potentially adopting something like that? Or did they have any concerns, or?
They had lots of concerns. They were, first of all, they were fabulous to work with, and I'm glad Joan is here. And if you don't mind, I'd like to bring her over here and let her answer any questions that you have. Do you mind to?
No, no.
And
She was great, and all of them were great. And come on, just
Sure.
And Joan,
experience-wise.
if I may, before you start, I do want to make a comment. No, you stay up there, because I want to give you a little direction and just reiterate something Tagi said a little while ago. So this is step 1. We're not setting any fees tonight or anything,
Right.
so we're going to definitely be peeling back the onion as far as everything else. But this improvement plan being adopted into the comprehensive plan is just, we're basically unloading a bunch of data and placing it in there in case we would like to make a fee enacted, so. You're up.
So
Thank you.
Just to reiterate myself, if you could sort of give a general approach on what the committee's maybe concerns with this impact fee, or what you liked about the impact fee, just so that we have, because you guys spend a lot of time. I looked at some of those YouTube videos, and you guys spend a lot of time, so I appreciate that.
Well, I would say that we took our responsibility very seriously to make sure that we fully understood how the numbers were going to be developed, as well as the impact that it potentially have on the town. So first off, John, one of your questions was around the change and the reasonableness of the numbers as far as developable land and what we thought the 10 years would be. And I would say we had a lot of discussion about that because, and we did a lot of comparison back to what the study had been a few years ago. And so one is that we actually, from what was recommended and what we looked at from historicals, because of the rate of which we're now doing residential permits, we actually advised to bring the rate up a little bit, so to add to that number. But when we looked at the commercial side, we think in the last study, it was so out of whack with what our historical development had been in town that we made the recommendation that we felt like we needed to scale that back, because for us, it didn't pass the test of reasonableness.
Okay.
So as far as, I think one of the concerns area we had discussion on, and I think it's been brought up the last time that it was brought forth, was around the impact on commercial development, and wanting to make sure that what were the options as far as for commercial development. Are there options to make it more reasonable, or how could it not be so impactful on the commercial development? And I think Tagi brought us through some options. The attorney also brought us through, some ways that that could make it more palatable for commercial development and not negatively impact the development. So I think that for us was the biggest concern, because we know a lot of the residents are looking for, right, restaurants, shopping, those kind of things. And so we wanted to make sure that didn't negatively impact that. But at the same time, recognizing that we do have, considerable, the development's going to have considerable impact on the roads, and needing to be able to address that as well. So we thought it's a balance that needs to be struck between those two things. And I think there were some options that came up on the commercial side.
Well, thank you very much for being here, because it's good to get your opinion. And
You're
hear what
welcome, thank
guys-
you.
Well, Tagi, I'm gonna, and Board, I'm just gonna can you express to us or explain to us some of those options she mentioned that are available for commercial development?
Yes. Depending on the development type for commercial, there are several options that one could use. What you have, particularly in this revenue table, is number one, it is an average cost over the 5 years. We have averaged all those on the EDU basis. And none of the options that are typically available for a commercial development is applied to those. And then you feel free to also chime in. This is basically by the book right now, raw. A developer that comes in, they could have other data that says, I am this type of medical facility, and I only have this many chairs or this many beds, and therefore I'm not going to generate the number of traffic that is in ITE tables. So they can provide that. They can certainly do do their own traffic study. And other agencies that are locally available, they can provide samples of those in terms of the traffic that is generated. And on top of these, if you're in certain category, what they call the 800 and 900 series of ITE table, you can get credit up to 60%, depending on the use, of trip reduction. Those are pass-by trip, and that is allowed under those circumstances. We cannot stand over and say in this place, on this corner of the part of some street, this use is going to go, and we really need to know what it is. The ITE tables have about 175 different uses, very detailed, and they can be assigned specific numbers, as well as getting adjustment for the charge or for the fee. And again, look at these as a raw table, unadjusted, and the adjustment once a development comes in, it could be totally different. Danny, you want to add anything to?
He's got it pretty straight.
Right.
There's a number.
I mean, how does the credit work? Because I haven't heard about, I understand about the classification, it's a raw figure, so depending on their exact classification could affect the EDU factor. But how does a credit work?
The pass-by credit.
The code for a different, say, shopping center. When we calculated by the exact square footage of that shopping center as we were given. When a developer comes in, or when he gets ready to build, it may be different than that. And as a result, he has the option of using the average trip rate or the graphical trip rate. In the case of the shopping center, it'll be to his advantage on the smaller shopping centers to use the average, because it'll result in a lower value. That's the raw number of trips. To that, you apply a reduction called a pass-by factor, and that's what Tagi's talking about as a credit. There's a lot of traffic that goes to different shops is people, it's generated from people already on the street. So it doesn't change the driveway count, that stays the same, but the number of new cars on the roadway is affected by that. Things like gas stations have a very, very large pass-by traffic deduction. Because when you know, how many times when you need gas is it your primary destination to go to the gas station? It's usually on your way home from someplace else, or you're going out to someplace else and, oh crap, I need gas. So you stop by. So this varies within the various codes. There are other codes, for instance, like a house, single family dwelling. There's no pass-by traffic there. Somebody doesn't just pass by there and stop in. I suppose it happens, but it happens so rarely, it doesn't, statistically, it's not counted. So does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, because I didn't know if there was other than the change in the factor of the EDU, if there was some sort of credit, like the businesses pays for some infrastructure, so there's a credit towards their road impact fee.
There is that type of credit as well. For instance, and I'm getting a little bit into Adam's territory, but this is something we got to work out in the procedural stuff. But if a developer builds an intersection, say if, for instance, Shops on 96, if the developer there built the 96th Street connecting, instead of the TIF funds doing that, instead of the town doing that, he would be able to apply for a credit in that amount against his fee, because it's a roadway that's used for public purpose and not solely for his access.
Okay.
Okay, so if he does those kinds of improvements, usually it would be public intersections. You could argue that that's an improvement used by the general public, not just for his customers. And so he could get a credit for that.
Okay, I appreciate
Okay.
that, thank you.
John, since you're Plan Commission President, I'll add this to the credit category that Denny just mentioned. So you know about our thoroughfare plan and our expected right-of-way that should be given at point of development. So there's quite a bit of that along 41 in the commercial district as well. So 93rd and 41, 109th and 41. When those developers give over that extra land, that could be applied as direct credit as well. Statute captures that. So,
Right.
I mean, because they're contributing to the improvements needed. So
Right.
whether it's the land, whether it's the actual land plus the improvement, that all goes into the till.
Yeah, land in lieu of fee, basically, that's what Paul is referring to. And there are, Mr. President, I know it is a little bit at this point foggy about how is this fee going to impact? But we have seen in other communities, what you see, this is a good case of what you see on these calculations into the projected revenues is not necessarily what the town will be able to receive or to generate as revenues. Number one, you don't know what it is. Number two is there are these other adjustments that will be made at the time of the application. And the next item, I think, in terms of sequencing, I do want to express my appreciation for both Denny and Craig working on these last two tables in terms of timing of these future improvements. I know it is a little bit you're shooting in the dark. However, it is required by the state to provide a timing and sequencing of future developments, and I know both Denny and Craig worked very hard in developing these. Feel free to look at it. I think in terms of your planning sense, this should give you a sense of where those improvements potentially could occur over the next 5 to 10 years, and that's an added advantage to the developers. And this is not often talked. And if there are funds available for some of these improvements, the developers are directly benefiting. I think the last part is Councilman Blazak brought up the names of several of those communities that do have road impact fee, and that under heading of fee comparison, you'll see those 4 communities that did have or currently do have, and how they have set up. Most of these are, with the exception of Westfield, have a fixed fee. Westfield has a graduated fee, and they are currently on $299, and the next year it is going to go up to $337. In terms of comparison, how does St. John compares with these communities at a 100% rate? If the council decides that is $338, and at a 70% rate starting, certainly it will be $236. There is several additional information that we have here that I've put in there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And on those sort of background information, we have left it in there for your reading and perhaps better understanding what that process is. I think I mentioned it earlier, that these fees, is important for everybody to know that these fees are dedicated funds, and they only can be used for road improvements, nothing else. And they are not also going to be used for existing deficiencies. In other words, you cannot use it to go and pave every street, and that is not allowed. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and
Any questions from the board that are working remotely remotely, or anyone? John, Bob? I'm sorry, I hogged up most of the time. I apologize.
Taggy, page 6 on the thin handout, number 10, just the 5-year estimated projected revenue, single family, 3,097.20. Where'd you get that number?
Are you on the small one?
Yeah, I'm on the
Okay.
thin one,
Wait.
page 6.
Page 6?
That is the average, because the advisory committee recommended 70%, 80, 90, and for us to project future, we basically combined all of those and got an average of it. So that is an average of the total fee that is proposed.
Okay.
Any questions for the board before I open it up to a public hearing? Tiggy, I'm going to have you sit down for a second, and then I'm going to open it up to a public hearing. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing to make any comments regarding the amending the comprehensive plan to include the zone improvement plan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Seeing none. Hearing none.
No sign-in sheets.
No, thank you, Paul. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Taggy, if you wouldn't mind, or coming back up to the podium, is there any questions or comments from the board regarding the road impact, or, I'm sorry, amending the comp plan to include the zone improvement plan? Anyone working remotely? Comments?
John, this is Yolanda. Can
Yes.
you hear me?
I can, Yolanda.
Sorry, I was having a lot of connectivity issues at the beginning. I wasn't sure if you guys knew I was here.
Okay,
Yes,
I'll
we
mark-
did.
I'll
We-
mark you as present.
Yeah, we got you as present, yes. Yolanda, do you have any questions?
Okay, sorry, I didn't catch that, but that's okay. Quick question. So today we're voting on the adopting this impact fee into the comprehensive plan. Is that right? The
It's-
improvement plan, adopting it.
And it's an amendment to our comp plan to include the zone improvement plan, which includes this road impact fee study. So
Okay,
what it
and-
really allows, Yolanda, in layman's term, I like to dumb it down to John Kennedy terms, it just allows the town, I believe it's the whole town's district,
That's correct.
to impose a road impact fee. So all we're doing
Right.
is changing the zoning, so then any future permits within 6 months of approval of the fee.
So to be clear, you're not being asked to set the fee.
We're not being asked to set the fee, just to include this into our
Or make
comp
a
plan.
recommendation on the setting of the fee. I apologize. I should clarify.
Right, that was my question. So
Okay,
we're
I
not
apologize. I
discussing
made
the
a long
actual fee
term.
today.
Yes.
No, that's okay.
Well, will you be
Hey,
setting
that's
the
okay.
fee,
That's
or
what
is
I
that
wanted to
town
get to. I
council?
just
You'll
wanted to
be-
make
well,
sure
you'll be
that,
making a
will there be another
recommendation
meeting?
based on the recommendation you received from the
Advisory.
the advisory committee.
Okay.
A recommendation of the council as the next step after this, should the fee be amended into the comp plan.
So, just to summarize, it seems like there's a bit of confusion, yeah. The zone improvement plan, all it does is take the data that they've compiled and the group has worked with. That data says, we're deficient on this many roads, we're going to need this many roads based on projections. So they take that data and pop it into our comp plan.
And pull the old
And then
one
it's
out.
actionable, it's just there.
Right.
And then the next step then would be, should we decide to, whether we want to do a fee or not, and how much the fee would be. So this is pretty much just raw data that's being adopted into the comprehensive plan for a public understanding of, this is where we're deficient, this is what we need based on projections.
You'll be
That's
asked
the only step
You'll be asked at
today.
a later time to set the percentage of the fee.
Yeah, but not at this
Recommend
meeting.
to the council to set the percentage of the fee.
If there are no more questions or comments from the board, I will entertain a motion. Again, the motion is either a favorable recommendation to the town council, unfavorable recommendation or no recommendation to the town council, because ultimately, this is the decision of the town council to include this in the comp plan.
Mr. Chairman, this is Adam Decker.
Yes, Adam?
Yes, if the motion is going to be made, I would also recommend that the motion certify the adoption of the Plan Commission, if that's the direction the Plan Commission goes with this.
Adam, can you repeat that for my understanding again?
Yes, so if the Plan Commission elects to approve or recommend approval of the adoption of the zone improvement plan, as part of that motion, I would suggest that the person also move to approve and certify the zone improvement plan amendment to the comprehensive.
Who's ever making the motion, do they understand that? Does anyone need clarification?
Eating cereal.
What's that? So Adam, why is it not just favorable, unfavorable?
Well, so this is not akin to a change in the zone maps or a change to the text of the zoning ordinance. That actually will come with the approval and recommendation for approval of the impact fee ordinance itself. For tonight's meeting, which is considering only the amendment to the comprehensive plan, that's simply a vote that would be taken by the Plan Commission to approve and to certify that amendment of the comprehensive plan.
So certify amendment to comp plan. All right. And Adam, am I correct again, if we do not receive a motion after several calls, it would just be a no recommendation to the town council?
No, not for purposes of this meeting. If there's no motion made tonight, then there's no action taken by the Plan Commission, and it simply would be perhaps deferred to another meeting.
All right, thank you.
I want to make a favorable recommendation to certify and amend to the town council to include the zone improvement plan to the comprehensive plan.
Adam, does that meet your requirements?
Yes, I believe that's satisfactory.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. President, this is Mike Gillette. I'll second it.
We have a second. Discussion, comments from the board before the vote? Tagi, I believe your team had done a great job. My only concern is I just received this 6 hours ago. So it depending on how I resolve, it's not because you put me more at ease because her same concern is my same concern. You guys answered a lot regarding our commercial development, which I think would put us potentially at a competitive disadvantage because no other communities in Northwest Indiana have it. Okay, we have a motion to approve or make a favorable recommendation. Can I get roll call, please?
So that was a motion by Mr. Burleson and a second
Seconded by Mike Gillette.
Correct? Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure I had it correct. Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Ms. Cardona,
Yes.
Ms. Woolen,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
and Mr. Kennedy.
No. Motion passes 5-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
No old and new business. Public comment. No public comment. And with that, we can adjourn.
All right. So here's the certification for you guys. Jeez, that corner got me. There's a step, but then there's a corner that's not. I'll have you sign 3 copies of the certification. And then do we hit